Hi, Callie and Adria. So, I am not someone that likes sitting still for long periods of time. I'm actually really bad at it. And I don't mean just like sitting in a chair for long periods of time, though I don't like that either. I mean like living a life in one place, doing the same thing over and over again for long periods of time. I talked about this a little bit in my other video about when I was at the state park and the Houston statue, and I don't remember the name of the video. But it's basically part of that crushing monotony and paralyzing terror that John Green talked about and that I talked about in that video. I think I mentioned that in that video. And the crushing monotony is always something that really, really gets to me. It's hard, and I lose hope about life in the future. So here's some things that I do to keep myself feeling hopeful. My arms are feeling a little bit tired, so I'm going to lean down on this chair for a second. Obviously, my number one thing to always do is to write, even if I don't feel like writing, even if I really don't want to write. It's really best that I write, because when I write, I feel like I've done something, that I feel like I've accomplished something that means a lot to me, that's actually worth accomplishing. I like imagining the future, like living in another little apartment or tiny house and having a little garden, which I already have a little garden right now, like watering gardens. And just plants in general, they're very happy. I like spending a few seconds with my cat. I'm always a big fan of escapism, of course. And specifically, when I need to feel hopeful about life, I like to resort to Jane Austen. Or even more specifically, I like to resort to Emma, the 2009 adaptation, and Emma Approved, the video blog adaptation from last year. I'm also currently reading Emma, kind of my favorite Austen. It is my favorite Austen. I love Emma. I love a lot of things about Emma, and I like thinking about those things. I like thinking about how cool Mr. Knightley is. Like, he walks all the time. He likes walking. He doesn't like taking carriage places. He basically just doesn't really care what anybody thinks. And that's the same thing for Emma as well. She doesn't care what anybody thinks, and I love that about her. Emma's got a lot of flaws, but she's determined and self-sufficient and amazing. Reading in general is a really good thing too, actually. Just sort of reading, it feels a lot better reading than watching things, because I just sort of feel like I'm getting more stuff done, like I'm learning more. I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of like weird backwards conditioning in my head. Maybe it's real. I don't know. The other thing I'm really liking watching right now is Foyle's War, which basically Craig Ferguson talked about a lot on his show. And so we started watching it here, and it's awesome. It's a World War II police drama where like this detective named Foyle solves like hour-and-a-half long mysteries that are pretty intricate and awesome. I like to clean my room. I like talking about things that are important to me. I like talking about Frankenstein. I like talking about gender in Frankenstein, specifically that of Elizabeth. That's kind of one of my favorite topics to talk about, because Elizabeth is so perfect. She's exactly the perfect 19th century woman, and then Mary Shelley kills her off. I think it's brilliant. I unfortunately get too caught up in talking about how much I don't like most adaptations of Frankenstein and how they all make me really furious, and then that makes me really unhappy, but at least it takes my mind off of how much I don't like sitting around doing nothing for long periods of time. And of course, this just sort of extends to like all of the romantic period, especially all of gender in the romantic period, especially the fact that I could probably just keep writing essays and talking more about gender in Manfred, because I love gender in Manfred. And Callie, I know that you guys both know a lot about this topic, because you guys came to my talk about this topic. But I love this topic because I just love thinking about Nemesis, and I love thinking about the three destinies. I don't think I'll ever get tired of thinking about those four characters. I love thinking about Astarte, or however her name is supposed to be pronounced. I'll never know. But I love thinking about like how she could easily not be what she seems, because she's summoned specifically by Nemesis, whose name alone says dark things. I love thinking about my book. I can't tell you guys about my book too much, obviously, because, I'm writing it. About time traveling dead people, as you know. It breaks my heart all the time whenever I think about it, and I think about the ending for this one specific book, and some very specific characters in this book, and yeah, it's kind of like I'm sort of in love with some of my characters, and it's tragic thinking about the things that I'm going to do to them in my book. I like remembering that I'm gonna go see Welcome to Night Vale again next month. I love that show, and I missing them live, and I wish that I could see them live, you know, with you guys. Like, it would be really great if I was in Seattle and we could all go to the Neptune. I don't know if you guys are going. The Neptune sold out super fast, like really crazy. Like, man, I love Seattle and their obsession with Welcome to Night Vale and all things nerdy and wonderful. At least here I work with a bunch of nerds. That's like a plus side of one of my jobs. The fact that I have more than one job is exhausting and soul destroying. Even though I don't dislike either one of those jobs, it just takes up a lot of time. It specifically takes up a lot of time that I would normally use for writing, and that's difficult. I miss being a student a lot, and I like thinking about being a student rather than how much I miss it, and like how it'd be nice to be back in school. And so I don't know if I've told you guys, but here it is. I'm really thinking of going back to school, and I think I've, you know, declined it before, the idea of getting an MFA, but I think it'd be really worth it getting my master's in either screenwriting or prose. So that's what I'm looking at doing again. I'm looking at applying to different schools with really great screenwriting programs that are really great networking, and I'm looking at applying to UW again for the MFA, and if I get into that one, then I would just spend 2 years working on another book or something. There's a cat. Hey. I'm also thinking of, you know, like, keep going and getting my PhD in something British romantics and something specifically to do with gender in British romantics and talking about that, because I could easily talk about that for the rest of my life and probably be really, really happy. And writing, doing both of them. It's important that I do both of those things. I like thinking about traveling. I like thinking about going to London and visiting Jennifer because I miss Jennifer. Wow. I like thinking about going to Seattle and visiting you guys and all my other friends in Seattle, and I think about going to California and visiting my friends that I was friends with for the first, you know, 18 years of my life, and I miss them a lot too. I miss a lot of things in the world, and I guess a lot of my life sort of feels like that. It feels like going around and picking up people and then leaving them behind and missing them. That it's like a really sad sentiment, but that feels like a huge chunk of my life. I like remembering the show Miranda, specifically her friend Stevie, who does this Heather Small impression a lot, where she gets like this Heather Small mask. Heather Small is a singer. I didn't even know that until I started watching Miranda. But she has this song that Stevie then like has, you know, does this one line of the song all the time where she goes, "What have you done today to make you feel proud?" And I think about that line every day, and I think to myself, what have I done to make myself feel proud? And then I make sure that I've done one thing that day to make myself feel proud, and it kind of just helps me get through the week and the month. And of course, as always, I like making these videos, and I like watching your videos. Adria, I will see you next week. And then I'm also thinking of, you know, sorry, cat. Okay.